Hugo Brunelier, who will be speaking about scalable model views over heterogeneous modeling technologies and resources.
So hello everybody, can you hear me well?
Yes.
And can you see my screen, my first slide?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and now can you still see it in full screen?
Yes.
Okay. So thanks a lot for your invitation. So my name is Hugo Brunelier. I'm a researcher in the Department of Automation, Production and Computer Science of the IMT Atlantique, an engineering school based in Nantes, which is also the school which is coordinating the Locomode project. So I've been invited to present today the latest work that we did on the topic of scalable model views by combining modeling resources coming from different types of resources and using different modeling technologies. So this is kind of a long-time research effort that we did in the team, in collaboration also with the group of Jordi Cabot in Spain, and more recently with the group of Dimitris Kolovos in New York. So today I'm going to give you an overview of this work. And as you will see at the end, actually this work is a kind of a long-term effort from our side. So just a bit of context. So as you know, when you're engineering complex systems, for instance, in the context of a local development platform, but also using any kind of design and development platform, you usually have to deal with a lot of different models. These models, they can have different purposes. They can be modeled using different languages. They can vary a lot in terms of size and complexity, and they can be interrelated. And usually they are interrelated to each other, meaning that they are not made independently from each other. Thus, generally, you need to provide, or you need to have different kind of views that are combining these models all together, depending on the type of stakeholders of this system, whether this is the designer of the system or eventually the final user. So in order to do that, we propose to a model view approach, which is called EMF views. As indicated by its name, of course, this relies on the EMF framework and is proposed a way to build and handle views of heterogeneous sets of models. So I'm not going to give in this talk a very detailed description about the insights of EMF views, but I will give a couple of hints about how it works in some minutes. But just to say that it relies on a model virtualization framework and a proxy mechanism. And then that basically, as it relies on EMF, it already works quite well on models of reasonable size. What we wanted to do with this, the work I'm going to present today, is improve the scalability of the approach. And especially when we want to work on larger models and we want to work on models that comes from different types of data sources and that are using different kind of modeling technologies. And so this is the focus of today's presentation. So what are the main contributions I'm going to describe in this presentation? So first of all, a conceptual approach for integrating together modeling technologies and model persistence solution with our model view framework. And we have realized this in practice in Eclipse by using, of course, our EMF view solution as the model view framework, by considering two different modeling technologies, EMF as the Eclipse standard modeling framework, and also Epsilon as an alternative way of handling models in Eclipse. And in terms of persistence solution, we have considered two of them so far. So NeoMF, which is a solution which provides multiple backends for storing and loading models, and CDO, which is the well-known Eclipse-based solution for storing models in databases. And finally, I will show that we have evaluated our approach and based on a small implementation that we realized in the context of a European project. So just a few words about this project, which actually provide the context of the example that we are going to use in this work. So the Megamart was a 3-year European project, which was kind of big in terms of partners. We finished the project some months ago, so earlier this year, but we managed to get interesting results. So one of the main objectives of the project was to work on the traceability between runtime and design time models, with the idea of providing possible feedback loops from runtime information, models encapsulated in models such as logs execution traces, and so on. And we wanted to be able to go from this runtime information back to the original design models of the system. And in order to do that, in this project, we proposed to use the model views that would combine these different types of models all together so that a user can actually navigate and query these views in a way to integrate all these models together. So just a few words about the concrete example that we are going to use. So this is an example view that we built in the project, which was kind of the motivation that we use for the scalability work. So as you can see, we combined 4 different kinds of models. So on the requirement model, a component model, a source code model, and a runtime model. Basically, the last one is a model that represents trace execution trace information. So for the requirement model, we use a standard CSV file, an Excel file, which was presenting the requirements in a standard way using CSV comma separated values. Then for the component model, we use UML, basic way of dealing with components. For the source code model, so as the project we are working on was in Java, we use the Modisco Java meta model and the corresponding model discoverer to get the source code model. And finally, for the runtime log information, we simply use a custom train meta model that we define specifically for this project. And the idea that we had was to have a view that would combine all together these 4 relating models. And then we would navigate this view so that we can go from the requirement model back to from the requirement model to the runtime information, and on the contrary, going from the runtime information back to the original requirements, passing by the different intermediate models. So how it looks in Eclipse. So here is just a small example of how the resulting view looks like in a model browser. So as you can see, it looks like all the information was actually inside the same model, but in fact, these are actually 4 different models connected together in a single view. So on the top, on the up part of the slide, you can see a trace log, which is actually coming from the runtime log model that is serialized actually in the database. And then we can transparently navigate this model to go back to the different models. So for instance, from the trace log, we now have a new relation to the corresponding Java class in the source code model. And then once we are in this Java class, we can navigate back to the component that correspond to this class from the UML model. And then finally, we can go back to the original requirements or sets of requirements that provoked the design of this component. And this is coming from the requirement model. So actually, you can see that thanks to such a view-based model view approach, we are able to navigate different models all together as if they were actually one single model. And this is totally transparent from the user perspective. So just a few hints about how EMA views allow this. So I'm not going to give all the technical details about the insights of EMA views, because the topic of today is more about the integration of EMA views with different other modeling solutions. But still, in order for you to be able to allow what's happening under the cover, I will just explain what is the virtualization mechanism about. So as you can see here, we have 2 different levels. On the up part of the picture, you can see the meta model level, in which you can define viewpoints. And on the bottom, you have the model level on which you can define corresponding views. So basically, the main idea of EMA views is that from a given specification of a viewpoint view that you can provide using an SQL-like DSL that we provide with the tool, the framework is able to automatically compute a viewpoint that will combine all together the different meta models without copying them, without duplicating information, just by providing proxies to the original elements in a way that this is totally transparent to the user, so that you can obtain a viewpoint as a virtual meta model and a view as a virtual model. The view specific information is actually stored separately as a reading model. All the rest stays in the original models and meta models. So there is here no duplication of elements. So this was just to get a general impression of how EMA views work. So actually, as I said before, the main topic of this presentation is rather on the integration approach that we propose. So as I said, the idea was to combine model view framework with different modeling technologies and with different persistent solutions. So what we propose is to put the model view framework at the core of the approach in a way that it allows to be completely integrated with a model-based tool solution that we have on existing technologies, So you can see here that the model view framework implements the generic interfaces provided by the different modeling technologies. So that is stays transparent from the user perspective. And then it knows how and when to delegate appropriately, how and when to delegate appropriately the corresponding query execution parts to the different modeling technologies and the corresponding persistence layers. So what happens here, for instance, you can see the bullet one when the architects define the viewpoint, the view specification, then the model view is able to compute this view. This is the bullet number 2. And then once the view is computed, you can actually query it. So if you have an engineer that defines a query, whatever the query is, using his own model-based tool, querying tool, then this query will be defined using his usual modeling technology. And then this is totally transparent to him what's happening under the cover. So the model view framework will take this query by using the generic interfaces of the modeling technologies. It will interpret this query, it will dispatch appropriately the different parts of the query to the different modeling technologies, and then to the different persistence layers that this modeling technology is actually supporting. An interesting aspect also that we proposed as a complementary to this automated query execution dispatch mechanism is the fact that we also allow to perform some specialized optimization for some specific persistence backends. So that's why you can see on the left part and right part of the screen this bypass arrow that in some cases allows to directly benefit from some optimization that are present at the backend levels. So if we apply this in terms of with concrete tools and on our concrete example, so here you can see the same figure but with actual tools behind it. So of course the model view framework that we use, it's EMF views, as you can imagine. So as a core modeling technology, we use EMF that you can see on the left side of the screen. And then we also integrate the use of Epsilon as an alternative modeling technology. And in order to do that, we had to implement a specific EMF views model view connector for Epsilon so that Epsilon knows and how to use the EMF views models appropriately. So that's one thing. Another thing I wanted to mention is that thanks to the use of these existing modeling technologies, we were benefiting from the persistence solution that comes with them. So for instance, with VMF, of course, you have the standard XMI, XML implementation. For the Epsilon, you have the solutions such as the CSV connector that is coming for free. We implemented this time a specific NeoEMF graph database connector. And also on the other side, on the Eclipse side, we are using CDO. So at the end, we are using 4 different types of connectors for the 4 different models that we have seen in our example. So some challenges that we had to face in order to realize that in practice. So of course, we had to refine our model view framework, which was initially made to work only with EMF. So we had to refine it so that it now supports different types of modeling resources using different modeling technologies. So now that we have done this for 2 different technologies, it can be potentially done for other modeling technologies in the future. We have also made an effort to persist and manage the view-specific information, the model weaving I talked to you a bit earlier, in a scalable way. And in order to do that, we also benefited from the backend solution that are provided by the different model persistence solutions. We had also provided load views and access corresponding model views with an acceptably low overhead. So this I'm going to show you in more details with the experiments that we have performed. Basically, the idea was that the overhead of using a view framework has to be as limited as possible so that it's not, it does not prevent the user from actually using such a view solution. And the same happened when we create a model. We had to make an effort, notably in terms of optimization, so that the query of the model view stays efficient. So just a small example on the query optimization to see how it works a bit more concretely. So here, this is an example of a simple query that we can define on our example view. So we just take all the instances of the log model, and from these instances, we select the one which starts with a particular message. And once we have this, then we are able to navigate back to the corresponding class and then back to the corresponding components, and then to the sets of requirements. And we compute the number of requirements that corresponds to this given node. So this actually corresponds to the same type of navigation that we did in the model browser, initially in the slide I showed you before, but this time using an OCL query. And as I said before, what happens when such a query is triggered is that the model view framework is able to dispatch different parts of the queries to the different underlying modeling technologies. And of course, you can see, as I said before, on the right side, this bypass mechanism that we implemented. So for instance, here we implemented an optimization, a specific optimization for the all instances operation, as it's a costly one. So here you can see that we are able to bypass when needed the modeling technology. So how it behaves in terms of performances, all these approach and these different layers. So in order to measure this, we have made experiments that are fully detailed on a paper. I'm going to point to you after that, but just to give you some general information without giving too much details. So we did two versions of the same view for this experiment. So the same view is still the view that I introduced before. So we had two examples. One is fully file-based, so just standard EMF XMI models. And another is the view as we want actually to deal with it. So the mix of file and database resources. So as I said before, the requirement model, which is a CSV file, has been handled via Epsilon. The UML component model, which is a standard EMF XMI file, has been handled via EMF, of course. The Java source code model has been handled in a relational database by CDO using EMF. And the runtime model, which is the largest model, the one that contains the execution traces of the system, has been handled as a graph database using EOMF and via Epsilon. So here you see that in this view, you really have two different modeling technologies and four different kinds of persistent solutions that are combined all together in one single view. And the idea was to perform complementary benchmark on this example view, so that we can measure the view loading, the view loading time, the time for performing a full iteration of the view, and the time to perform the queries on the view, notably the queries that you have seen before. And for each one of these three benchmarks, we perform measurements on model size going from 10 elements to 1 million elements. And thanks to that, we have been able to see how our integration approach reacts when the models get bigger and bigger. So as a summary of the experiments, I'm just going to give you some quick insights about what we have observed. So first, concerning the view loading. So as expected, we have seen that the heterogeneous version of the view is slower than the XMI one, which is expected because, of course, you have different kind of database accesses to be made. But what is interesting is that we wanted to keep the overhead in a limited factor, what we managed to do when the models gets bigger. So we have observed this interesting behavior is that when the bigger the model gets, the smaller the overhead factor is, which is a kind of encouraging result, I would say, concerning the view loading. And we also have to consider that the view loading is not something that you perform many times usually. So once the view is loaded once, then of course you don't have to load it several times in order to query it or to do manipulation. So this is also the important parameter to take into account. Once the view was loaded, we also computed the time to perform the full iteration over the view. So here we have observed that there is not so much difference between the heterogeneous version and the full XMI version, which is kind of a satisfactory result. We have observed overhead factors that goes from 1 to 3 for the bigger models, which is relatively acceptable. So I think this is a pretty interesting result. And the last sets of experiments we performed, which was about view querying. So here we have observed that the heterogeneous view, the base heterogeneous view is globally slightly slower than XMI1, apart from when the models get big. And in order to remediate to this issue, when the models get big, we perform this specific backend optimization, the bypass that I showed you before, which allowed to obtain improvement from 10 to 300 times, which is kind of interesting as well. Some general lessons we have learned. So as I said before, using the standard API, modeling API, such as the one of EMF or Epsilon, if we also consider it as a standard API, it's really a good point because this allows to facilitate the integration with other solutions. But of course, it has to be done with some caution because sometimes this can hide some lower level optimization. And this is notably why we had to implement this backend specific optimization that were some kind of hidden by the modeling frameworks. So this is what we did for the all instances operation. This corresponds to the second bullet, and this requires some effort. This does not come for free. And the last point I wanted to mention is that we had to deal with multiple development environments and multiple technologies, which is also an additional factor of complexity, but still, this is something that that's interesting to do and that facilitate later reproducibility and portability of the approach. So that was all for the experiment themselves. Just a few words on the related work. So as you imagine, EMA views is not the only model view approaches existing. Actually, there is a quite significant number of them. If you are interested on the topic of model views in general, I encourage you to take a look to this paper I put the reference here, which is a systematic mapping study that we did on the existing model view approaches, and that provide a taxonomy with a set of features and how these different tools match these different features. And what we have observed generally is that there are not so many proof of the scalability of the model view approaches, and this is notably what triggered this idea of this work. We have seen that there are few approaches that integrates models from different sources that allow to do that. But if they do, they have other types of limitation, notably in terms of scalability as far as querying is concerned. So this was also one of the main motivation for the work that I presented. Apart from pure model view solution, there are also other types of techniques that are sometimes used to emulate model views, such as model composition or model decoration. But these solutions, they also have some limited optimizations for specific backends. And this is also one of the drawbacks that we wanted to overcome with the solution that we proposed. So this was for the model view part. About the querying aspects. So of course, there is a community working on this, and there are many interesting results already existing, notably in terms of incrementality. Also in the data warehouse community, there are many things around the querying optimization and so on. So these are all possible extension of our approach and things that we would like to play with in the future. So coming to the future work. So there are still many things that can be done around the EMA views itself and around this integration approach. So one thing that I've just mentioned is the use of incrementality. So far we just considered the basic querying using the standard OCL implementation, for instance. We have not tried to evaluate the performances of the solution when you perform multiple query execution over the same view. And this is a scenario in which we think the integration of incremental capabilities could be very useful. So this is one aspect. Another aspect is the improvement of the compatibility of our approach or the scalability of our approach with model transformation techniques. So here I mean model-to-model transformation, but also code generation. We have already tried perform experiments on our view solution with ATL, for instance, or with Axeleo. So we know that we are already able, taking a model view as input, we are already able to transform it to another type of model, or we're already able to generate code from it. But we would like to see if we can go further and optimize this the transformation computation by partially delegating parts of it to the different persistent backends, for instance, such as we did for the querying part. Another aspect that is something that is very important when you talk about views in the database community, for instance, is the support for view update or view maintenance, meaning the synchronization from the models to the view and from the view to the models. So here we think that the fact that we want to deal with, that we're actually dealing with different kinds of technologies and different kinds of resources adds an extra level of complexity to a problem that is already kind of complex. So this is, I think there are still many things that can be done in this area, and these are interesting possibilities for the future. And finally, and this is something I highlighted in this slide in particular, because I think this is kind of relevant to the topic of today, is the fact that we would like to apply views and this integration approach in different projects and use cases, and notably projects in which we would add new data sources, for instance, cloud-based one. So I think Philippe this morning did an interesting presentation about the type of capabilities that from which we could benefit. And I think these are the kind of things that we could try to integrate in our approach. It would also be interesting in targeting different types of users. So currently, the view approach that we provide works at the abstract syntax level mostly, meaning that we don't support the combination of different concrete syntaxes, whether they are textual or graphical. And I think here there are many things that can be done to this respect. So that was all for the future work. Just a few words before finishing on the bibliography that correspond to the work that you have seen today. So the first paper, the sourcing paper, is actually the paper from which most of the content of today's presentation is coming from. In this paper, you will also find all the details on the different experimentation that we have performed with all the tables and figures. So if you're interested to get more details about this, I encourage you to look to this paper. The second one is another experiment we made with EMF views, but this time we integrated the tool with a traceability tool called JTL. So this is just another example of integration that I did not mention today, but still that's interesting to see. The last one from this slide is the survey that I talked to you before. So the survey of model view approaches that we did. That is also an interesting source of information if you're interested in model view approaches. And the other one are all the papers that we did and that were more focusing on the insights of EMF views. So if you're interested in EMF views itself and not only in the integration approach in general, please you go and take a look to these various papers. So that was all from my side. I think in terms of timing, I'm more or less on time, maybe a bit earlier. So if you're interested by seeing a demo of the tool, if the tool is not very graphical, because of course most of the things happen behind the scene, but in the context of Megamart, we recorded a demo which shows how we can build the views, and then from this view how you can generate automatically some kind of report, dynamic reports. So if you want to see how it looks in practice, here I put the link to this short demo. Of course, the tool and all the resources, the source code of the tool, but also the benchmark that we did in this scalability evaluation, everything is available online with the manual, tutorials, and so on. So please, if you're interested in the tool, go to the website. And of course, if you have any question about EMF views itself or about model views in general, feel free to contact me at this email address. So that was all for me. Thanks for your attention. And if you have any question, I will be happy to try to answer.
Thanks, many thanks for the interesting talk. Really useful, I think, in the context of this project. Is there any question you would like to ask people? Kurat has a question. Maybe you can ask using the mic.
Yes, it's Kuratulain here. So in the bypass process that you mentioned, are you using query translation to native query language for getting benefits of specific optimizations? And if yes, is it performed at runtime?
So no, we don't actually transform there is no actual query transformation at this stage. This is something that has been studied at some point, but it was kind of more complex to what we did. So we decided to go for a more straightforward approach. So here, when I mentioned the bypass, it means that we actually made a call to a specific implementation of this of a given operation. So for instance, there is a NeoMF, the NeoMF solution here, that is used for the runtime log models. It comes with a specific implementation of the whole instance operation that is optimized for graph databases. And instead of going through the regular all instances operation that is provided here by Epsilon, or it could be the same by EMF. We just call directly here the specific implementation, optimized implementation provided by NeoMF. So this is what the bypass is about. So there is no, at this point, we didn't perform any query or parts of query transformation for the optimization. But this is something that could be envisioned for the future. So far, we are just dispatching the different parts of the query without actually transforming, optimizing the query itself.
All right, thank you.
Any other question? So in the meantime, I have a couple of curiosities. So is the view approach dynamic? I mean, whenever some of the sources here at the bottom, the model or the requirement model changes, does the view get updated dynamically?
So as I said, we are not going very far in terms of view updates currently. So it's updated, it's partially updated in the sense that as we rely on a proxy mechanism, so we don't duplicate the original model elements. So for instance, if in the view, in one of the original model, there is the value of a given attribute that is modified, then this will be visible also in the view. Because of course, as we just point to the original elements, we don't copy it. So this kind of a small update will be automatically visible in the view. But if you imagine more complex modification in the original model, such as the addition of new elements, for instance, or new relation, so in this case, this will not be automatically updated in the view. You will have to recompute the full view to get this modification visible in the current implementation. So that's why I mentioned that we still need to work on this, on a better update mechanism for EMF views.
Any other comment? All right. Well, in the meantime, whenever I have views, I hear views, I have a different, almost the opposite of what you presented, no? Because here you have a scattered information, like in from different sources, and then by means of a query, then you build out a virtual view on top. But in other approaches to view definition, you do the other way around. You start from a single underlying model, maybe it's a big model, and then you define views that are partial aspects of this model that you can project. So my question here is, does your approach support this scenario as well, where you have, let's say, a very big model, and then you only extract partial views from it?
Yes, so actually, EMF views, the insight, I didn't give all the details of the insights of EMF views, but there is a core language inside that has different base operation, and one of these operations is actually a filter operation. So what you can do is that you, from a set of models, you can actually, or one model, you can actually filter elements from this model and keep only the models that you think are relevant in the view. So this is something that is possible. I didn't show it here because actually the purpose of this work was to show the combination of different kinds of resources all together in one single view. But you can do the opposite. You can have one single model, possibly very large, and then you can filter elements to show only parts, to show only relevant parts of the original model. So this is something that is possible to do with.
Yeah, of course, the scenario you have presented here is much more challenging because you start from heterogeneous sources. So another question would be how easy is to extend this to other sources so that I can get information, let's say, from Excel files or from XML files.
So there are different ways of extending. So either you provide extension by plugging another modeling technology, and in this sense you can benefit from the persistence layers that are provided by the modeling technology. And this is actually what we did with Epsilon. Initially, EMF views, as of course, was built only on top of VMF. And the fact that we integrated the use of Epsilon allowed us to benefit from all the connectors that come with Epsilon. So the CSV connector that we use here is one example of this. So this is one way of extending the framework. The other way is to work directly by adding a new specific connector. So this is what we did with the integration of the NeoEMF specific connector. So here you can add a specific backend and make it compatible with the Vue framework. So these are the two ways to extend. Either you add a new modeling technology and you get for free with it all the different underlying connectors, or you directly add a specific connector to EMF or to Epsilon now that we support it as well. But still, there is a cost to do that, of course, because you need to implement the compatibility layer between both of them.
Good. And what is, if I may ask, because you mentioned that the project that where you built all these finished. So are the plans for extending this, or what will be the status of this work? Because I think it's very, very useful, no, for the community.
So we actually submitted some project proposal recently. So we hope that we would like to be able to pursue this. So I mentioned at the end a couple of possibilities of extension. So there are many things that we would like to do. So for instance, we would like to work on the Vue update to improve the Vue synchronization. So in both directions, both update and maintenance. And we hope to be able to do this in the context of a project, a European project that we submitted. So we're still waiting for the answer. But yes, I hope at least to be able to continue to work on that. And we are currently looking for resources to do that.
Good. Any other comment you would like to make to Hugo? All right, we still have a slot at the end where we can have extra discussions. Thanks a lot, Hugo. Thanks a lot for your presentation.